With Godzilla vs. Kong releasing this week, I thought it'd be fun to go back and take a look at some other versus movies Hollywood has tried doing over the years. And yes, I say tried because most of them are questionable. Oh. Sure, you can talk about Kramer versus Kramer, Joe versus the volcano, and Chuck Norris versus communism, but I'm more interested in monster mashups and clashes. So let's go all the way back to the Silent Age because, yes, versus movies do go back that far. Santa Claus vs. Cupid was released back in 1915, directed by Will Lewis. Holiday heroes duking it out. Sounds cool, right? Well, to my disappointment, neither Santa Claus nor Cupid fight in this film. And as a matter of fact, neither of them even appear! This versus video is off to a great start. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians doesn't have verses in the title, but at least it has more conflict in it. It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on. 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein could have easily been called Abbott and Costello versus the Universal Monsters. Because you got the Wolfman, Dracula, and even the Invisible Man popping up. Great classic comedy. Speaking of Universal Monsters, House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula are also great monster movie mashups. The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, Dr. Jekyll and the Werewolf, and Dracula versus Frankenstein were not made by Universal, but you can tell that they were definitely spawned from them. In the 40s, 50s, and 60s, there was a boom of science fiction films and monster movies, with notable ones being Forbidden Planet, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Godzilla. But what happens when you get 1958's Earth versus the Spider, the Navy versus the Night Monsters, or 1966's Billy the Kid versus Dracula with John Carradine? Well, you get a plethora of other stuff too. The legendary luchador El Santo went on many wacky adventures and appeared in a slew of versus movies in the 60s and 70s. Let me just rattle off a few of my favorites. Santo versus the Evil Brain. Santo versus the Vampire Woman. Santo versus the Strangler. Santo versus the ghost of the Strangler. Santo versus the Martian Invasion. Santo versus the Riders of Terror. Now that is a title. Santo and the Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman, and Santo versus the Killers from Other Worlds. I was first introduced to Santo when going to a wrestling-themed restaurant called Lucha Libre Taco Shop, and they were playing Santo movies inside the restaurant. And there was one where he was fighting a bunch of mummies, and I was like, mummies and wrestling, two of my favorite things. This is awesome. It reminds me of that 2013 classic, Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, starring Roddy Piper. Rest in peace. You can't do a versus video without mentioning the endless array of kaiju clashes. You got the original King Kong vs. Godzilla from 1962, which is fantastic, by the way, in my opinion. The new one is going to have a tough time topping this, and I'm dead serious. I love this movie. I have the Blu-ray. And after the enormous success of that film, still remaining one of the highest grossing movies of all time in Japan, it was all downhill from there. Everyone wanted to see big monster battles on the silver screen. You got Gamera versus Barugon, Gamera versus Gaios, Gamera versus Virus. I wish it was Gamera that would fight another virus for us. Gamera versus Gyron, Gamera versus Jiger? Is that a jaguar tiger? Who knows? Gamera versus Zygra. Is that a zebra tiger? Who knows? Got Mothra versus Godzilla. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Godzilla versus Hedorah. And Godzilla versus Megalon. And finally, one of my very personal favorites, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. I don't know what it is, but two guys in rubber outfits wrestling each other around is far more appealing to me than two CGI monsters who aren't even there wrestling each other around. I'm not nagging on CGI. CGI is wonderful when it's not overused. Peter Jackson, that old 5 hours. Animals are usually the basis for a lot of films, most of them horror, the best ones of them horror, and most of them are produced by Roger Corman. And if you don't know who Roger Corman is, leave this goddamn channel right now! Sharktopus vs. Whale Wolf. Sharktopus vs. Terracuda, which features a cameo from Conan O'Brien. Dino Croc vs. Super Gator. Mega Shark vs. Crocosaurus. Mega Shark vs. Mecha Shark. Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus. Mega Shark vs. Colossus. My boy Mega Shark likes to fight, huh? You know, there were supposed to be 2 versus movies that were supposed to happen that I would have just died to see. Before Freddy vs. Jason, the original plan was Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash from the Evil Dead. But plans fell through, and we got a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comic book instead. I've been searching for that one for a long time. Please, somebody help me find it. Halloween was supposed to be a Michael Myers vs. Pinhead movie. Pretty clever title. And was supposed to come out after the highly successful Freddy vs. Jason. However, according to Doug Bradley himself, the Akkad producers, who produced the first couple Halloween films, weren't so keen on the idea. Really, actually, a shame. Anybody who knows me and knows me well knows that Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time. Okay, so there's a few more movies we could talk about, but we're not gonna do a lot. Okay, we're just gonna do a super speed round, alright? Forget genres, forget timelines, forget release dates. This is a mega speed round, okay? Are you ready? Here we go. Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. Dahmer versus Gacy. Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. Hansel versus Gretel. Chupacabra versus the Alamo. The Aztec Mummy against the humanoid robot. Alien versus Predator. Alien versus Predator Requiem, which I refuse to see. Aliens versus Avatars. James Cameron, is that you? Alien versus Hunter. Alien versus Ninja. Mafia versus Ninja. Ninjas versus Zombies. Ninjas versus Monsters. Ninjas versus Vampires. Clowns versus Ninjas. Zombie Ninjas versus Black Ops. Sadako versus Kayako. Komodo versus Cobra. Boa versus Python. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. Ooh, gotta watch that. Frankenstein versus the Mummy. Ballistic X versus Sever. Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. Jack versus Lanterns. Justice League versus Teen Titans. Batman versus Two-Face. Batman versus Robin. Batman versus Dracula. Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice. Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, I saw a movie where it's Batman meets Scooby-Doo. I wish it was Batman versus Scooby-Doo, because I would have loved to include this on this video. Superman versus the Elite. Atom Man versus Superman. And yes, there was a Superman before Christopher Reeve. Lake Placid versus Anaconda. Helen Keller versus Nightwolves. Bonnie and Clyde versus Dracula. Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Johnny Quest versus the Cyber Insects. Asterix versus Caesar. Darna versus the Planet Whammon. Navy SEALs versus Zombies. I almost misread that as SEALs versus Zombies. Just, you know, SEALs rolling around and zombies just taking a bite out of their luscious blubber. Humans versus Zombies. Cockneys versus Zombies. Cowboys versus Zombies. Cowboys versus Vampires. Cowboys versus Dinosaurs. Mill Mascaras versus the Aztec Mummy. Midgets versus Mascots. Airplane versus Volcano! And that's it. Good night. Get out of here. Pretty sure I missed a few, but no one watches this channel anyways. Subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you all later when you're sleeping. Okay, good night.